Obviously, very exciting with spring football a few days around the corner. The guys have been working really hard so far this offseason. Since the last time we met, right, continue to make improvements in the weight room with strength and conditioning and speed work, and then ultimately continue to learn the schemes as we're going to get ready to implement them in spring football. But really excited. The guys have been bought in. A few days of work, then they have spring break, and then we'll come bring them back and continue through the duration of spring football. Obviously, the spring game, which has been announced, couldn't be more thrilled to continue to work and see what we're capable of.
You've done a pretty extensive list of public event type things, speaking, and then you guys did this. Don't know whose brainchild it was, but what part of your job do you feel like is getting the fan base back involved in Arkansas football? How important is that for what you're doing?
Yeah, Tom, I think that it's my job as a head coach is to make sure that we're hitting on every aspect of this football program, right? Obviously, the biggest thing we can do is with our day-to-day with our players, but like I've told you guys, even from the very beginning, right, including former players, right, Razorback players and former players that from Arkansas, including them part of our program, touching base with donors, interacting with people throughout the entire state, whether it's going giving speaking engagements in Little Rock or around town here. I think that's important. We've got a tremendous fan base, and we're so fortunate that so many people love the Razorbacks, love Arkansas football, and are excited about what's coming. And so the more opportunity we have the chance to kind of share our vision, tell people what we're all about, the opportunity for people to hear me speak. One, it not only hopefully gets the fans excited, but they have an understanding, okay, who's this Ryan Silverfield guy? What's he all about? What's the program all about? What's occurring? Right? When he talks about culture, what does that really mean? And quite frankly, it helps with recruiting a lot because people are seeing us and have an understanding. So it's been great. The reception's been phenomenal. Just so many people in this great state, like I said all along. And the more we have the opportunity to interact with our great fans, the better.
I know it's a few days in before you can go full pad and all, but what's your philosophy on live tackling and how do you do the maximum during springtime?
Yeah, I think spring's a great opportunity, especially as we're still trying to figure out what we have, right? Like I think we're going to continue to learn about this program and our players and our current roster. Yes, we've watched practice film from last year. Yes, we watched game film, whether they're incoming guys from high school. All those opportunities have been great, but there's nothing like seeing with our true eye. All of our coaches, our front office, having the ability to go out there and see what our guys are capable of. So we are going to maximize the live periods when we can, right? Obviously, the first two practices due to NCAA rules and compliance rules will be just in helmets. But then when we have the opportunity to go full pads, we're going to go full pads, and we will do live periods. Some questions have come up whether the quarterbacks will be live to be determined. But I think ultimately you still need to see, can guys block? Can they still tackle? Who can make people miss? All those things are important. It's a physical ball game. As we get into training camp, we'll still do some live stuff, but obviously we want to be healthy and make sure we as full speed as we can be going into the first game of the season. But I still believe nothing substitutes live playing and the physical aspects of the football game.
Coach, do you have any players that you can comment on be limited or out of spring balls that you know of right now?
Yeah, so I will say this: we've lost Connor Smith, who is a freshman punter. He'll be out for the entirety of the spring. And then other than that, it's kind of a wait and see on some guys. We're literally having guys doing some follow-ups, checkups, guys from things from last year. We have some guys that may be limited the first week and then coming back with that extra week off of spring break that we say, okay, let's ramp them up. Kind of going back, we want to make sure guys are fully healthy, right? We have a guy or two with a soft tissue issue. Hey, let's see if it's close. Let's hold them and then bring them back so we have an idea. Last thing you want to do is a guy goes out there and it's period 3 of practice number 1 and their hamstring pulls again, and now all of a sudden you don't get a full evaluation on them.
How do you feel about the tight end position?
Yeah, I feel really good, right? Jaden Platt's obviously the name that a lot of people remember as a guy that returned, that played quite a bit last year. Maddox Lassiter's a guy that played a lot of special teams for us and more of that fullback role, but he'll be kind of used in that H-back tight end spot as well. Obviously, we brought in some guys I think is important. So it's a good mix of guys. And, we will utilize the tight end, whether it's, I don't know how much, if we're going to be as much 12 personnel as they have been here in the past. But if the opportunity is, and we feel like the tight ends, having multiple tight ends on the field at one time, give us an opportunity or an edge and an advantage in game playing, then we'll do so. But most of the time, right, I can't sit here and say 100% of the time, but 99% of the time we're always going to have one tight end on the field. But been pleased with their progress. I think they like the scheme, how it's being implemented, and the way they'll be showcased, not just as blockers, not just as wide receivers, not just lined up on the ball, off the ball, the different things we can do with them.
Yeah, Coach, specifically on a couple of wide receivers that had longer-term injuries, Ismail CC, Jalen Brown, Monte Harrison, those guys back full? Or?
Yeah, so CC will be back full. He's done a great job with his recovery from his injury last year. Monty is a guy we're going to continue to monitor. It could very easily, Trey, be 2 weeks from now, he's full go. Just kind of one of those things. Obviously, we know his age, and we're going to be smart with him as we implement him back in. And then Jalen Brown has done a remarkable job in his recovery. One of those deals, obviously, with his injury. Again, it's not only our athletic trainers who have done a fantastic job and the doctors talking to them, the strength coaches, but our entire staff. Hey, does that look natural? Does that look normal? How are you feeling, Jalen, as we progress you back in? But in a limited role, he certainly will be out there.
Obviously, the most important thing is who takes the first snap August 5th, but I think a lot of people are curious because you have quarterbacks from different backgrounds. You got Fuller, who has 20 games of experience. AJ comes with you from Memphis. He's been in the system. KJ was here last year. Who takes the first snap?
Yeah, I think they went out to dinner last night. We may just flip a coin for spring practice, number one. They're all capable, and I meant that when I said this last time I met with you guys. Like, the cupboard's not bare. We feel really confident in all those guys that go out there and be starter and quarterbacks for the Arkansas Razorbacks and still feel that way. And so we'll see. I don't know. I get it, right? Y'all have a job to do. You're going to go out there and judge he took that first snap over there, and this guy – I don't mean a darn thing. I'll call it what it is. If we come out and you ask me post-practice, hey, why was this? Who won the coin toss? But that'll be it, truly, because it's an open competition.
We are going to overanalyze it. I'm curious about how you operate practice, how it's evolved over the years. Are you a music guy, no music, fast pace? How do you like to do it?
For sure. I think, which I'm excited for you guys to be able to kind of get a chance, first glance, of what this will look like, at least spring. And the spring will have a little bit of carryover to what we're going to do in training camp, carry over to what we do in the season. And so, I think the biggest thing is get them out there, kind of pro style, do some walkthrough stuff, pre-practice, get them loose, but just also from a mental aspect, some of the stuff we just got done meeting with them on. All right, then we'll go to stretch and then kind of open it up. Normally, we'll open up practice with some type of special teams drill, right? Like a skill or something like that, but throwing special teams right into that realm of it, right? And maybe it's on a punt protection deal, maybe it's a scheme, but generally it's an actual drill that gets them going, usually some type of competition, right? Listen, we're dealing with 18 to 24-year-olds. Sometimes we just put the ball down and say, let's go compete and let's do these things. It ramps up the energy of practice. But we'll have music. The music choice, you can't always give me credit or blame me, okay, if the music isn't up to your liking. But it'll be a variety, and sometimes I'll just say, no, screw this, change that song, or turn the damn thing off. But no, we'll have a little bit of music. It won't be blaring. I don't need our Fayetteville neighbors complaining about the choice of music or the how loud it is. But we bounce around, we move around. I think one of the things you're going to see is that on average, generally at practice, I used to wear one of those Nike watches. We'll see if I wear one now. But I'm myself, and I'm not very fast, and no one's ever called me an athlete, but I probably put on about 5 miles just running back and forth like a wild man, just trying to hey, I'm with the DBs now. No, let me go be with the offensive line now. Hey, got to go handle the quarterbacks now. I may see something over there. It's across the field, and it looks like I'm trying to run as fast as I can, going to tell a wide receiver something. And then, but our coaches are the same. I told our coaches this morning, I want them coaching hard. I want them being demanding. I want them being detailed. But also, when something great happens, let's celebrate it. Let's enjoy that stuff. But if something that's not to our standard, right, if it's not the right ball security, if guys are loafing, man, it needs to be fixed immediately. And we're going to make as many corrections as we can in the flow of practice. We don't want to always stop and say, okay, let's slow things down. But hopefully there's a good flow to it. Obviously, that first practice of a new tenure, spring practice number one, there's going to be some organized chaos and some things that we're going to immediately say, hey, I'm going to have to tell a coach or a equipment manager or a video guy, hey, we need this over here. This should have been on this hash, and organize it to the best of our ability. But I think people are going to say, okay, wow, there's a little bit of a flow to this thing, more of the team periods towards the back end of practice like a lot of teams do, but and then adding in situations throughout all of spring football.
In recent years, it was pretty normal to see players go through spring practice and then they're in the portal afterward. But now with this one portal window, maybe a little bit more roster certainty. How does that affect what spring practices are like? Getting to know that this is your roster. Yeah,
well, as we sit here today, at 1:04 p.m. on this Wednesday, the calendar is supposedly staying the exact same. Now, we could get done with this press conference and the NCAA come out and say, hey, we decided to add 2 more transfer portal windows and all heck's going to break loose, right? And then I've got to sprint and we got to go figure out what the heck's next. But as of now, there's no spring transfer window. And so we're assuming our roster, and that's great because it kind of gets you the understanding of implementing things. We can also sit there and say, hey, let's throw more at them, because they're going to stay here and they have the opportunity. But also you can say, hey, if we're not ready to advance from day 7 install to day 8, hold on, let's pump the brakes. Let's make sure they handle this because we're going to have the opportunity for these same guys during OTAs, during training camp, to be able to get those things fixed. But it is kind of nice. Let's just call it what it is. I think any coach that sits here or any general manager sits here and says, oh, yeah, January is just an absolute blast. You know, all the free time I had, they're full of it. So I think that the ability to sit there and say, okay, hey, here's who we have. It gives us the opportunity to really evaluate and not have to sit here and say, well, what about this? Like, okay, and who can we get better? It's no longer the excuse of, well, this guy, the second string guard's not getting it done. Let's go replace him in the portal. It's, hey, okay, what are the things that we can improve upon with him? And then we also have an understanding of what our team is. You know, everybody always says, hey, Ryan, what's the scheme going to look like? We have our generalities, right? Our base stuff that we're going to run on offense, defense, and special teams. But if all of a sudden we have a left-footed punter, that may change something we do in the punt scheme. If all of a sudden we decided that we're going to use more tight ends and we're going to be a 13 personnel team, well, that's going to change some of the stuff we're going to do later on in spring and in this offseason, right? And idea, oh, hey, I didn't know this guy was capable of this on defense, or this guy's really great at communicating. Let's move him to this spot. And so I think that's going to kind of allow us to understand where the pieces of the puzzle are and a better understanding of what our roster's all about, what we're really capable of, and then kind of continue to grow from there.
Coach, going back to the quarterbacks, you said flip a coin for who takes the first snap, but do you anticipate them both getting first-team snaps within the practice? Do you want one guy to work first team one day, change the next day? Kind of, what's the plan on that?
For sure, and I think as we're continuing to discuss that, I think that the reality is we have 3 guys we feel are going to get first-team reps, and kind of go from there. You know, with obviously KJ and AJ, that makes it easy, right, with the syllables until we screw it up. We'll be getting the majority of the first-team reps, and it literally may be, okay, hey, today you'll get the first ones, then you'll get the first ones tomorrow, and then kind of that rotation. It may even be, hey, today you get the first ones with 7-on-7, and then you get the first ones with team, and then kind of constantly rotating. We want everybody to get the fair shot, but I think the more you can throw them in, you obviously want guys to get into a rhythm, but that's, right, college football, I think part of it is, okay, even if you're just getting them all with 7-on-7, that's not going to be a huge change if you go with the second team or that next group. And again, reality, right, like, I don't know what that even looks like. I don't know who our starting right tackle is. So the guy that we may be sitting here saying, is he going with the ones? Is that really the ones, right? And what does that look like ultimately? So every spot's wide open, and we're going to practice and plan accordingly.
And I know he's not going to be here until the summer, but you did have a kind of a unique addition in Hank Hendricks being a reclassification guy. Have you ever had a guy reclass like that, and kind of how did that come about?
Yeah, listen, excited about Hank. We can now talk about him, that he's officially signed. Excited about him. You know, that was one of those things I have not had those. We've had that people have talked about a guy reclassifying, and usually that happens sometime in December. Obviously, you guys know that Hank's father's on our staff. We had zero discussions about his son reclassifying. We actually, as a staff, never once talked about it. It was not even a thing that brought about. He's a young man that's had a lot of success, obviously, and a very, very talented player in high school. And he understood he's way ahead on his academics and just kind of felt like, hey, the next step for him would be to reclassify and then go from there. But we had never once broached that topic with him or his father. In fact, it was approached to me. And I said, let's just make sure we're going through all the right steps. And that was from every single person in our organization, from Guy Crowley to Tim Cramsey to Ryan Silverfield. It was never once other than, hey, let's just if this is something that you and your family feel like you want to do, we'll support it. And we would take you and bring you as part of our football program if it's something you want to do. And then as it came up, it made complete sense for us to bring him on. And he's a young man that's got continued huge growth potential, but we're excited about his future.
You talked last time about how you expect QB battle to go all the way up to first game potentially. But as far as, regardless of who runs out with what team, what do you feel like KJ and AJ specifically need to show you over this next month or so?
Yeah, I think at every one of those players of that position, let's just start with the quarterback in general, because I think I could say and tell, well, hey, this guy needs to work on maybe better deep ball. This guy needs to work on touch pass. But so much of that is just kind of what we've seen, that they're kind of throwing the ball and some of the stuff from their previous film. And so now that we're actually getting into real football, there'll be so many of those actual specifics. Hey, this guy needs to open up his hip more on this, the intermediate concepts, hey, the screen game, whatever that looks like. But I think with all the quarterbacks is who can communicate the best, who can put us in the best situation to run an effective and efficient offense, right? It's great if a guy's got a rocket arm, right? We always say, oh, he's got the best arm. That's great, but if they can't put us in the right protection, if they can't communicate, if they can't be a leader, right? I don't care if they're running with a third-team offense, if they can't lead that group and command that group to do what they need to as an effective offense, it doesn't matter. And we're going to have situations, right? We're going to do 2-minute situations before the end of a game, right? Hey, a minute 36, one timeout. Who can take control of that? That doesn't mean they're always going to win the drill. It doesn't always mean they're going to have the highest completion percentage. It's not like a kicker you just have, well, this guy was, 80%, so that's going to be our guy. I think so much of that has to be judged with what they want. But we want to see those guys step up in a leadership role. We want to see those guys take great command of what we're trying to do offensively and put us in the best situations, even on a run play that may need to be checked or killed to a different thing, that they're putting us in the best situation to have success.
Coach Ramsey called this a big fact-finding spring when he was up here last time. What do you feel like are the biggest things you need to learn about your team overall? We've talked a lot about QBs, but are there any specific positions you really feel like you need to hone in on over the next month or so?
And that's the one thing I wish I could sit here and say, yeah, it's just this position. There's a fact-finding for every single person in our organization. And you guys are going to hear me often talk about it, right? It's not just the quarterback position, right? Like I'm excited to see where our coaches are capable of, right? Yes, I've worked with some of them and all those things, but I think for every single one of us as an organization, right, I'll call it 200 people, right? This is going to be a great opportunity to kind of see, okay, now stuff's for real. This is no longer a Wednesday afternoon in a 72-degree environment. What's it going to look like? I'm going to put every single person in our organization, including myself, in a stressful situation, in an opportunity that's going to be put everybody in a little bit of uncomfortable feeling, and seeing how they do and seeing how they thrive. And that goes with every single one of our coaches, our staff, myself included, and every player. So there's going to be fact-finding for every single person in the organization, which I'm thrilled about because I cannot wait. Every single day is going to have its own process. But right after that spring game, we're all going to have a better understanding of what each person or organization, their weaknesses and their strengths. Because sometimes everybody always, what do they need to work on? What are their strengths and how can we build off of those as well? And so very optimistic about where we can go and how this is going to grow. And then with every position, right, within itself, what are we capable of doing here? What does this look like? How do we need to get this thing? But I'll say this, right? Can we continue to be really good at the controllables this spring? All the things that we can control as we go out there. Are there daily improvements, right? And sometimes it's incremental. One player may improve 1%. One unit may improve 10% over 10 practices. But are we making, is everybody in our program giving the best version of themselves every single day? And then are we making those daily improvements throughout this process?
Yeah, speaking of, speaking of just, what you want to see, I'm curious, the offensive and the defensive lines there, coming into the spring, what are you hoping to learn about the trenches?
Yeah, I hope the biggest thing we can take away is it's a bunch of physical guys, right? That's the number one thing I want. I think the fundamentals obviously have to be on point. I think over time, with all the different things everybody wants to get cute and schematics, you lose the basic fundamentals in the trenches, right? And so, I want our D-line to be the most fundamentally sound in the country, right? Great with their hands, great timing on their get-offs. I don't know if we're going to be the most physically imposing, the fastest. I don't know that. But I want them to come off with a demeanor, right, that people say, holy cow. And no different than the offensive line. So I want our trenches, when we leave this thing, saying, we got a bunch of tough asses. We got a bunch of guys that are willing to fight you every single play. On the O-line and the D-line, guys that love ball, they're coming out swinging with the right mindset and the right approach. And kind of one of these deals, I want every day that they're taking it, other than those helmet practices, it's a true battle and the mindset to dominate their opponent. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And then, okay, hey, what does it look like? Can these guys affect the quarterback on third down without having to blitz? That's something we'll learn about our defense line. Hey, can the O-line, what kind of schemes can we run? Are we just going to be a wide zone team, a true outside zone team? Or are we ability to run gap schemes? And so I think there's just so many of those things. But on the basis, a macro level view, right? A bunch of tough guys that are going out there and fighting their tails off every day that are willing to impose their will.
And before the week break hits, what are kind of your top priorities for first week?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is what you want to see is we don't want – listen, it's our job as coaches to make sure the effort's there, right? It's our job to make sure that they're getting lined up. But there should be a drastic improvement from day one, right? Just guys understanding, hey, this is where we stretch. This is where this drill is. This is what from day one to day two, right? And then the speed of the game should pick up. And then that third practice with it being full pads and some live aspects of it, like, okay, right, you're going to be able to tell really quickly who doesn't mind the physical aspect of the game. And so I think we're just going to learn a lot, even those first three, like, hey, who can make those improvements, who can play faster, because the speed from practice 1 to practice 2 should increase immediately, right? Just because of a knowing, a comfort level. There's going to be a lot of angst for every single person out there, right? I even have coaches like studying their roadmap of like, okay, where's this drill supposed to be? Where am I? Okay, I got this much time. And so it's flowing a little bit smoother, and it's my job to orchestrate that, and our job is to make sure we're all on the same page. But ultimately, okay, hey, we improved every single day, back to what I was saying earlier. And then when we get back from that break, okay, the base installs, days 1 through 3 installs are in. Can we still be able to retain that information and go out there for that fourth practice and do it at a high level?
And are you continuing, or I guess are you planning to continue the War on the Hill into the spring, or planning on having anything similar?
I love it. Great question. Yeah, so that the War on the Hill that we kind of talked about, we will continue to do it. It may be something as simple as we get closer to the Masters week, like maybe we'll do a chip shot for each team for a golf, and that's worth some points. But the one thing we'll continue to do is we monitor, right? Each team is still responsible for community service, right? Their academics, culture violations, all those things. So that's kind of cool because it's still monitored every single day. In fact, we'll even implement a lot more of it into special teams. So we'll do some special teams drills instead of just, hey, running back and forth to the cone and blocking each other. It may be Hog Team 6, right, versus Fayetteville's Finest, and they're doing a drill versus each other. It's a special teams competition. Get to see guys do it in a different manner. So we're going to continue to implement all that all the way through the end of spring.
Coach, some guys that maybe took a jump during off season. Any guys in particular?
No, I think you get to see once these guys got settled in, you know, and a lot of it's these freshmen, right? Like you get these freshmen that have graduated high school, right? They should be thinking about prom and all the other things, and all of a sudden they're thrown right into the mix and like, oh, well, I lifted weights in high school, I ran, and they're just wait a second, this is SEC football and the strength and conditioning. And then even for the transfers, right? A lot of people, I came from this school, so this is, we won a bunch of games, so this is going to be easy. And they get hit in the face, and they're like, holy cow, this is a lot. This is just like I told them in recruiting, like we're going to outwork people. We're going to do these things at a high level. So I've just been pleased that first 2 weeks for a lot of people was, man, a baseball bat square in the nose. And then, okay, I can get through this. I'm going to push through this. I'm sore. I'm tired, all these things. But embracing now what it's all about. And so, I think it wouldn't be fair to just single out a single individual. But I've been pleased, especially a lot of those true freshmen, because at first you're like, man, he's just a baby. But you get to see some of the growth for some of those guys. And it's not that I'm trying to avoid giving you guys specific names, but it wouldn't be fair because I'm truly there's a handful of guys that are still taking that baseball bat to the face every day and need to be able put that catcher's mitt in front and say, okay, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be able to handle this the right way. But the majority of the guys on our roster have said, okay, cool, this is what this is all about. We're going to attack this thing head on and actually going to take that baseball bat and swing it back the other way.
Any more questions for Coach? Trey, you want to wrap us up? We asked you a little bit about the offensive line last time. You talked about shuffling some guys around. I'm curious how things might start out. Like a guy like Malachi Breland, he played left guard for you last year. Is he a guard for sure? You consider working him at tackle any?
Yeah, Trey, I think we are going to shuffle throughout spring, but like initially, Kavion Broussard, we're going to probably start right there at left tackle. Okay, Malachi Breland probably right there at left guard. Again, all these guys with the ability to compete. Right, Kittler is probably going to stay primarily at center. Right, Cash Courtney, a young guy that we've talked about all along, like probably a center, but also the ability to play some of the guard spots based off of how those guys do. Right, we know Kobe obviously has been a starting right guard in this conference. Probably going to leave him there initially. That doesn't mean does he get kicked out to right tackle a couple times? Do we have to move him to left guard based off of the growth of some other people that may step up? We bought in Big Grant from Louisiana Lafayette. Like, does he solidify that right tackle spot? But the ability to move those guys, but initially day one, they're going to start in their primary spots. You can never have enough guys that can snap as well. We got to make sure throughout the spring that we're rotating some guys. You may look in there and you may say, oh, I didn't know that guy was a center, but maybe the opportunity just because you can never want to go into a game with not enough guys that can do that.
I know you said you didn't want to single guys out, but I was curious about, I assume you guys have done some testing and maxing and stuff. I was curious if there was any numbers that jumped out to you.
You know, everybody always, we track the GPS, we do all those things. We actually have not gone to the maxes on any of the stuff, whether it's squat max, bench max right now, because of soft tissue leading into spring break, leading into spring ball. And so we're going to be smart with that. We'll do some more of that really at middle of the summer, right, when we get them back and we've got them on the 6-week plan, and then before maybe the July 4th break, kind of what that looks like, and then kind of get them geared back up for training camp. Let's say the GPS was fine, nothing earth-shattering. We got some speed, which is great. I think what we're going to see is guys that are going to continue to make the strength gains, their speed's going to go up. And sometimes people are like, well, how can a 185-pound receiver that now all of a sudden weighs 190 get faster? Well, that's strength, right? And I think that's all part of it as we get to see that growth with what they're doing in the weight room. I know, right, sometimes a lot of you guys have questions on the weights of guys and stuff like that. We're giving certain guys goal weights. We're giving those the opportunity to kind of see where they can match. We've added another nutritionist within our department that can be monitored. So all those things are going hand in hand within the weight room with what they're doing on and off the field.
How big is it for you, Coach, to have recruits come to practice and watch them and watch the practices, maybe see their future coach or something out there working? How big? I know a lot of kids have said they're going to be here next few weeks. Talk about how big that is for the program.
Yeah, Otis, I think it's great. As you guys know, right, we want as many recruits that we're interested in to show up, right? And we invited, I think Bray Cook, you guys, we made the announcement, obviously, that we officially added him, right? I think he's reached out to every coach in the state and saying, come watch practice, send them our practice calendar, like, come yourself, bring your players. And I think that open invitation is pretty darn nice for these high school coaches. Come sit in our meetings, be a part of this thing. And then to have the recruits out there, I think it's great because we can sit here on a Saturday and a junior day and I can, hey, this is what all in means. Here's our beautiful facility. Here's your academic presentation. Here's where we eat lunch. That's great. But nothing tells you more about our program than going out there and watching those coaches coach, watching them teach a meeting, watching them coach a guy in the details of it, holding them accountable, celebrating. You get to see the true aspect of a football program when you get to go out there and watch them for 2 hours, what they're all about. So the more our recruits get to see us in action, I actually think it's going to be a great selling point for us. Everybody in the SEC has nice facilities. Everybody's got these great things. But, man, hopefully the way our guys coach, the details of it, these young men that come watch us say, I want to be a part of that. That's going to help me in my development.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about Chris Marshall. Just curious what kind of due diligence that y'all did to make sure he would fit the culture that you're trying to build here, and then also just how has he fit in so far, and then what does he bring to the table?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, just like with every guy, you do your background, you call around, you call the coaches, you're opening up everything you can to figure out about this person's past, good or bad, right? And Chris, we certainly, let's call it what it is, we did our due diligence, we called around. And a lot of it is just sitting with a young man face to face, like I've told you I've done with every single recruit, whether it's a high school kid or transfer, and sitting them face to face and say, listen, let's talk about your past. And maybe it's Tim Tebow telling you about, all the children he saved. You're like, oh, that's great. And maybe it's another man that may have not had a perfect past. And let's just say, not every 17 to 22-year-old has had a perfect past, but some guys that can learn from it. As long as they can sit here and say, hey, I've made mistakes in my past. I understand I can own it. I know what I need to do in order to improve myself. And this goes for any individual, not just Chris, any person we've dealt with, right? Hey, I'm willing to take the steps in the right direction. I'm willing to be held accountable. I'm going to do what exactly we need and you need from me as an individual in order for us to have success in this program. And I think that's important because if a young man sits there and says, well, again, not just Chris, any individual, and is not sure that they can own up to things that have gone on in the past, probably not somebody we want a part of our culture. And so that's important, right? Being able to hold their feet to the fire and say, listen, no. You told me we could hold you accountable. You told me your goals, and you told our coaches we could help you achieve your goals no matter what it looks like. And sometimes it's not pretty, right? I can't sit here and tell you every day I'm giving guys hugs and telling them I love them and pats on the back and telling them how much I care about them. Yeah, we do those things. We tell our players we love them, but sometimes there's some words that come out of our mouth. Sometimes it's a little bit more gruff and not so sweet and sensitive. But they get it and they understand, hey, this is what this is all about. And so whatever the heck it takes in order for us to be successful as individuals and as a program, we're all in.